Hey people, how are you doing? Welcome back to another video of the React series. Today we are going to learn about performance and how to optimize performance using a React hook called useTransition. We'll be talking about prioritization. We'll be talking about what is urgent versus non-urgent in terms of component rendering. Everything cannot be of high priority in your life, right? If that is the case, you will be very busy throughout the day. And at the end of the day, your performance is going to be very, very tiring. Same thing with the components as well. When components renders, you have to identify what is of high priority versus what is of non-urgent or not of that much priority. We'll learn things with a lot of code and examples. We'll also learn when you should not think unnecessary for the performance optimization, because if you think unnecessary, you're going to bring down the performance than improving it. Alright, so we're going to get started, but before that, a request. If you have not subscribed to this channel, please subscribe. I keep sharing content on JavaScript, React, web development, Git, GitHub, open source, career building, and content creation. You don't want to miss them. Alright, so let's get started. We understand a concept well when we understand with examples. So for this video, we are going to understand useTransition hook and its capability using this app, a very simple app that I have developed. Let's go over this app once quick. The app is having a search text box where you can type down a search name or search criteria or a query. And if the search matches any of the name of these individuals, any of these users, we will filter it, right? So for example, let's go over and type HAYES. So I see that all the users having Hayes in their name, they just appeared here. Rest of the folks are just gone out. So we have actually performed the filtering. Great, it's a very simple app, isn't it? Now in this app there is a problem. Why? What is the problem? Let me just quickly type something in the search box and try to notice what happened. Okay, so I'm going to press my backspace and going to remove these letters very quickly. Okay. So removing the last letter H took some time, isn't it? Let's do it again so that you observe it. HAYES. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. Did you see? I had to press 3 or 4 backspace keystroke to remove it. Why exactly? And is it a great behavior? I don't think so. If you are a user who is using this application, you will be annoyed saying that, oh, why is it taking so much time? I should be typing on this search box, on this text box flawlessly, and it should work. So let's get into code to try to understand what is happening in this application. Then we are going to look into useTransition hook and how it's going to save you from a situation like this. All right, so let's look for it. Here goes the code of this application, a very simple ReactJS component. So what we are doing over here, I have a fake user.js file where I'm using faker library to fake out this user information. I'm using the name, avatar, and background, though the background information I'm not using in the component. I'm using only name and avatar. I'm creating an array of 10k users over here using their name and avatar. And I'm using this one in main.jsx file, passing the user information, which is coming from fake user, to the app.jsx file, which is my component. In app.jsx file, I'm receiving it as a props. And on receiving it as a props, what I'm going to do, I'm going to do a few things. First, I have a text box, and then I have an area where I iterate through all the users and then plot them in the card. So I have these cards. And on top of input text box, I have an area where I show how many users are user names are matching when I'm typing. That's the logic basically. Okay, so these three things in the JSX area. Let's go to the one again. So if I type you see like 431 matches. HA is what the text box is in the text box, and this is the list where we are seeing like the matched user. So it's very simple, right? There's three things in the JSX. Now to handle this, I am actually having two states. One state where the search term, whatever I'm typing into the text box or the query, and another state is called filtered. It means that based on the search term, I am going to filter on this user data, get the filtered result, and then set it to the filtered state so that I can update this state. This is so straightforward. So as and when I type something, the onChange handler kicks off. Here I have this handle change method. Inside handle change method, I set both the state. One state to put the current value into the text box. Second, to the state update based on the current value in the text box, filter out the users, right? So this is what I am doing. This is a very usual one, but I'm seeing a sluggish behavior. Why exactly this sluggish behavior? Let us understand that with a visual, and then we'll be able to come back to use transition to see like how use transition can solve you from this problem of responsiveness, or bad responsiveness or bad usability or bad performance. All right, to see that. What we are going to talk about now is something about urgent versus non-urgent state updates. Okay, so let's consider I have a component. This orange box is nothing but my component. In this component, I have two states. The top state is something which is like the input text box search term, the text that we have, the state that we have seen. And the bottom one is the filtered list. That is another state that we have seen just now in the code. Now, when the state update happen, how React makes the state update? In the previous video, when we spoke about virtual DOM and reconciliation, we actually spoke about the batch update. Okay, so if you're new to it, please go ahead and see that video. Is there in the same playlist? What happened when two state updates happen simultaneously, occurs at the same point of time? React is smart enough to combine the update, make a batch of them, and then as a resultant of that, it try to re-render the component only once. Think about the case if the state update is happening every time and every time React is re-rendering your component. For small state updates, your component is getting re-rendered. It will be a performance problem again. Now to save that, if the state update is happening, what React is going to do, it's going to kind of collect them, the things that are happening almost at the same point of time, and then make an update altogether. And whenever there is an update happen for your state, your component re-renders, right? So we know that. Now, do you know like all the state updates that you make by default, React mark them as urgent state update. It means whenever there is a set state function that you call, React assume that you have to re-render your component just now. You have to do this. So React will go try to make the update and re-render your component. But this is kind of cause a problem, right? What kind of problem it cause? We'll come to that. But let's finish this diagram. So there is an update. If this update happened, the first update happened, second update happened, and after that the component re-renders. So the component re-renders. Now the problem we were talking about is exactly the problem we faced with this application. If you now recall, I have a way to update the search box state, and I have another way to update the user list, filtered list. Both the state updates are happening almost at the same point of time under the handle change method. React will assume that both of these state changes are of urgent and high priority, because by default all the state updates are high priority. What React is going to do is going to make a batch update of both the state together, and then only the component will re-render. Now, though the search term state update takes just fraction of a millisecond, but filtering through a huge list of data might take a longer. But in this case, the component re-rendering has to wait until both the state updates take place, because React is batching them and those state changes are happening at the same point of time. Now in this situation, what do? You don't have any way than waiting or making your user wait until all the state changes take place and your components kind of re-renders. This was the case, my friend, till React 18 came, Once React 18 came into picture, it got a lot of things around concurrency and a lot of useful hooks. One of the most useful hook that I can think of, and I love it a lot, is called useTransition. The useTransition hook is introduced to solve and tackle a situation like just what we are talking about. But how does it happen? The only way that it happens is, instead of considering all the state updates are urgent, you as a developer can tell React, hey React, this particular state update or this batch of state updates, mark them as non-urgent. It's okay if it doesn't come in this rendering of the component. It's okay if it happens little bit later. Think about a situation when you are typing through a text box and there is a list below is getting filtered out based on what you type. what is urgent for you, like what you type in the text box to see immediately, because that's when you believe that the application is working. But if the filtration of the user is happening a bit late, you can manage it with the loading indicator and things like that. You won't mind it much, isn't it? So the same thing, same component, now with a different perspective that we'll see. In this case, both were urgent, but now same component, same two states. But in this case, the search term state update is urgent, and the filtration, we mark it as non-urgent. Let's say we are having a capability to mark it as non-urgent. In that case, I mark this as non-urgent. So what happened is like this set state happen basically, and then the component re-renders happen. We park this component re-rendering of this one later point of time, and then for the second one also component re-rendering happens separately. Now, how do we mark this as something that, non-urgent? That's where useTransition hook comes into picture. Now let's get into the anatomy of useTransition. Let's try to figure out like what exactly useTransition hook does, and then we'll change the code that we have seen just now with useTransition and see like what kind of performance improvement, what kind of responsiveness we get into the same application. All right, so let's do this. So useTransition is a built-in React hook that helps specifying that some state updates are non-urgent. Through this hook, you can tell React, hey React, these state updates are not urgent for me. Don't mark them as urgent. You can actually handle it in little bit delay. So don't worry about it urgently. It returns two things. Basically, one thing, an array, but two elements. So first element is a Boolean type variable is pending. This particular variable returns true, always returns true, as long as the second item, which is a function, start transition function, executes. As long as the start transition function executes, this is pending will be true. When start transition function execution completes, the is pending will return a false. Okay. Now I already told start transition is a function. It's a plain old JavaScript function which takes one argument, and that argument is a callback function. If you are new to callback, I have a exclusive video for callback function. Please go ahead and look into it. It's in the same YouTube channel. So it takes a single callback function where you will be keeping the code for which you want to update the state logic in with delay, or slowly update, or like non-urgent update. So you will keep your non-urgent state update inside start transition. When start transition execute, is pending will be true. When the execution is done, is pending will be false. Okay, this is what it is, and const you all know is a JavaScript keyword. So this is the anatomy of it. Now what we're going to do, we are going back to the same application, but with the help of useTransition hook, going to see like what are the modifications that we are going to do to that to achieve some great amount of responsiveness and the performance. First we'll see the application, then we'll get into the code, the improve application, then we'll get into the code. Okay, so let's see that. The previous application was running on 5173. I'm running the improve application on 5174. The dataset might look different because as we use Faker, it randomly generates the data. So some user might match, some user may not match, but don't worry about it because the data, as long as the number of data are equal. So in this case, I am going to pick up say Lynch, L-O-I-N-C-H, and I'm going to type about it, L-O-I-N-C-H. Okay, it filtered. Now I'm going to quickly remove the same operation I have done before, and I found the sluggishness. Please notice all three sections. This one, and this one. Okay, I'll again explain. Did you find any sluggishness on the text box? No, there was no sluggishness. Let's do it again. No sluggishness at all. But did you find one interesting difference? When I was typing or when I was removing, did you find this loading, the loading indicator? So it means the re-rendering for this text box state update and the re-rendering for this portion or the re-rendering for the above portion is not happening at the same time. The text box update is very smooth. The re-rendering happened very smooth, but this one is happening little bit later. That's why it is coming with is loading and handle it completely differently. And this is a much better user experience than if I come here, type HAYS and do the same thing. Again, I'm stuck on H. It takes at least 3 or 4 backspace for me to kind of remove it. You can see this visibly. Now, how am I making this improvement? How this improvement happens? Let's go to the code again and try to see how this improvement happens. So we are back to the code again, a similar kind of project, having a fake user, 10K fake user, main.jsx, passing the users as a props, app.jsx, all magic here. What we are doing extra, we are now importing useTransition over here. We are using the useTransition hook. It's a built-in hook, so it's part of React. It returns one array with two elements, isPending and startTransition. We told about it. Now, all the things that is making a difference happening inside the handle change. Before, inside handle change, we were setting, search term, setting the filtered together to update the state, batch them together, and then make a component re-rendering, But in this case, what I'm telling, hey React, setting the search term, keep considering as a high priority urgent task, but setting the filtered is a non-urgent task. Because by definition, we have seen that anything we are putting inside this set start transition is considered, inside this callback is considered as non-urgent thing. So I'm telling React is fine. If you don't, make this part of the same re-rendering thing, just handle this one as an urgent and don't handle it as an urgent, it's a non-urgent piece of it. React is going to listen to me now. But along with that, React is also giving me another thing, another way of making this app responsive. What? It also gives me this isPending. And I told that isPending is something that when this executes, when this execution happens, isPending will be always true. That means when this is getting executed, I can use this isPending to do some amount of loading indicator. When this execution is done, that means my state is now updated. I can actually hope that the values are there. The filter will have the value. This filtered will have the value. Then isPending will be automatically false because the execution of start transition is over. So based on the isPending, I can always put a loading indicator and I can manage the things well. So this is really beautiful. This is going to save you from the situation where you are dealing with something really huge, something really big, and you want to make your application responsiveness elegant. You don't want to like put it for toss. I think this is what you need. Okay. So a quick recap on everything that we have discussed. useTransition is a built-in hook which allow you to mark a state update as non-urgent so that React is not going to batch it with any other urgent state changes and put it under the same re-rendering cycle. It will save you that small state changes or quick state changes happen and the re-rendering happen faster, doesn't wait for a longer state change or longer re-rendering process, and won't bring any kind of sluggishness in your application. Question: should we use this particular hook, useTransition, all the time? The answer is no. If React is already smart and it knows like batch your state updates together and making smaller number of re-rendering of your component, why should you hamper that? You use this useTransition hook only when you understand the use cases very well, like where you are dealing with something which is large, you're dealing with something which is huge, and that's the time you have to use useTransition. So use it properly where your use case really demands, than using it every time. I told the same thing about use memo, use callback when I explained that in that video. So any performance optimization comes with a cost. The cost that we have to think through, like what exactly we are achieving versus what we might be losing. So use it wisely, but it's a great hook to learn. It's a great hook to now put into your perspective for practicing and using in your application. I hope this video made total sense to you. I hope you like that. So was it useful to you? Great. If it was useful to you, please like this video. Please comment what you have understood. What's your understanding about useTransition? What is your understanding about performance optimization? And if you have any questions, feel free to ask them. I'm going to respond to your questions. And also one request would be, please share this video in your circle, in your social, so that other people also come to know about the video. And if you liked it, I'm very sure that other folks are also going to like it. Up next, I'm going to come back with other videos on React series. I have actually resumed this series after a while, and I'm going to continue this for rest of the videos as well. Okay, take a great care of yourself and don't forget to practice. Okay, this is main thing. The learning alone is not enough. Doing whatever I just taught you is not enough. What enough is practicing. Practice. Build your own example with useTransition. Post your example in the comment section. Ask me to review. I'll review and give you a comment. Take care of yourself. Coming back soon with the next video. Thank you.